Hello, and welcome to this Vicon training video. This video will focus on platform-related features in the Niagara AX 3.6 build. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm connected to a J6 platform with a station running named email testing. I will also make a quick reference to the platform connection on the local host. Taking a look at the application director, you'll notice that the stations which are listed under the stations folder of the PC are all listed in the application director section. You also should be aware that those stations are listed under the system home and the stations directory. Previously, the Niagara service was limited to the number of stations which could be managed from this application director through the Niagara daemon, and that limit was 32 stations. Beginning with the 3.6 build, that limitation has been essentially lifted, although there is a limit of 1,024. But if you're trying to keep more than 1,024 stations in your stations directory, you probably need to move some around anyway. So essentially, the number of stations that the Niagara daemon on the local PC can manage has been increased to essentially an unlimited number. We'll focus on the JACE platform connection for the rest of the enhancements. First thing we'll take a look at is the Tcp Ip configuration. And wanted to point out that beginning with 3.6 build, that for the JACE controllers, the IPv6 tab is now functional. So provided you have IPv6 switch hardware routers and such in place and wanted to utilize IPv6 addressing, the JACE hardware does support that and it can be enabled now. Previously, we had IPv6 support for PC-based stations with the 3.5 build. Now, another change that's been made with the 3.6 build is that the DHCP support can be applied to any of the network adapters now on the embedded JACE controllers. So previously, the only adapter was the EN0 adapter, the primary network adapter, could have on the IPv4 tab could have the DHCP enabled. And the IP settings on the secondary port, if it were enabled, had to be hard-coded. So starting with 3.6, even the secondary network port could have DHCP set on that, and you may see a third network interface port, which would be BC0, which would be the Wi-Fi option card on a JACE 7. Any of those three can have DHCP enabled on them. There is a caveat, however, that only one of the network interface ports on the JACE can have DHCP enabled on it at a time. So just keep that in mind. Only one port at a time. The other two can be set manually. You could use all three network ports simultaneously on a JACE 7, for example, the Wi-Fi, and both the primary and secondary network ports, but only one port can have DHCP enabled at a time. It's also worth noting that when you do have DHCP enabled, that the DNS gateway and the DNS server entries will be populated based on the information from the DNS server. From the DHCP server. Too many acronyms. The gateway and the DNS server settings will be populated from the DHCP server. And this is important to understand that the adapter using DHCP then is the one which would be routed. And previously, I think there was some confusion that it might have looked like the manual settings were still in place when you were using DHCP on the primary adapter. But anytime DHCP is enabled, the gateway and DNS will be populated based on the DHCP server itself. And we'll take a look at the platform services in the station. One of the things I wanted to point out quickly was, in this case, there's a Gprs modem on this JACE controller, and the properties for configuring the Gprs modem have been a platform view, which required the port 3011 access. Beginning in the 3.6 build, under the platform services, you'll see that there's also a Gprs platform service view that's available, and this is a station side access to all the configuration properties and such for the Gprs modem, which was previously only configurable via the platform connection. So as long as you have a station connection, you can make changes even if you can't access it via the platform connection. Another change for 3.6 is related to the NTP platform service, and there's a Boolean property now, which option is to sync time at boot, which you can set to true, and each time that the JACE starts up, it will immediately try to sync with the NTP server that's configured. And this allows for it to correct its time immediately on startup if there was some sort of a drift in the RTC clock while the JACE was shut down, while the station was not running, and then it'll continue syncing based on its NTP configuration after that. And the last item that we wanted to talk about is a new hardware scan service. And this hardware scan service is a service. It's available in Plat HW scan module, and this is sort of like the serial platform service view here, that you see that it provides access to the COM ports and such, but the hardware scan service gives us a little bit more information. Actually, it'll show us what the NPM board is installed on the JACE, gives us information about each of the LAN ports, each of the COM ports, in this case COM 1 and 2, the RS-232 and 45, the NDIO if it's installed, which it is in this case, and it'll actually identify which option cards are installed. In this case, I have a LAN option card installed in option slot 1, and I have a GPRS option card installed in slot 2. So the hardware scan service can give you detailed information about the option cards and all the COM port configurations and IP ports and such that are available on the JACE platform, in addition to its base board. So a lot of good information that could be helpful to you when you're remote, not able to physically inspect the JACE. And this concludes the information on the enhancements related to platform features with 3.6 build. Please stay tuned to other training videos which cover other topics in detail. Thank you.